1 box of ammo, a brand new shooter, taking a gun from directly out of the box in 1 hour, and the goal is to get this new shooter to shoot a 5-shot group in 1 MOA and make a 1,000-yard shot on the first try. Do you think you can do it, honey?
I really hope I can.
So I'm gonna show you how we set up a brand new rifle when it comes in for review and how to get the best accuracy results out of it. Let's go. All right, rifle setup. We set up a lot of rifles at Backfire, so I want to show you just a few things to watch out for. Because we want to focus on us, on the shooter and on this video, we're bringing a rifle that's extremely capable. And this one is over 12 pounds, so technically for the 1 MOA hoax video, I guess that this one doesn't apply. But we want to focus on us in this video. I've put a scope on here, a pretty inexpensive Arkin scope, a 5-25. Has, you know, accessible turrets. They're not capped turrets, so it, you know, we can dial up for shooting long range. It's also very important that it has a parallax adjustment. A lot of your less expensive scopes skip the parallax, and what that's going to mean is when I get in on the scope, it may be in focus, but if I move my head position a little bit, you'll see that reticle is pointing to different spots on the scope if we can't adjust this so that it puts the reticle in the correct plane here. So we've got to have a parallax adjustment and exposed turrets, and then we want something that's going to track. You can watch my reviews where I'm testing that with a lot of different scopes. All right, we got that. We need good quality rings. Just avoid the super cheap stuff. Tally, Warren, Vortex, there are a lot of good companies that make good quality rings. Just avoid the $30 Amazon special. It's easy to turn a $1,000 scope into a $50 scope if it's not mounted properly, and use a torque wrench is your friend. Okay, now height above bore does matter. So MDT did a video, and it was a great video. I liked the video where they made just these insane scope rings, like whatever, 3 feet tall, to have the scope way far from the bore. And I think the point that they were trying to prove is that the height above bore doesn't matter. And that's kind of the conclusion that they said. And I thought, well, I don't know if I agree with that. So ballistically, it's easy in an app to compensate the height of your scope over the barrel. We can just dial that in the app, and I'll show you how to do that. What is more difficult is, especially on a hunting rifle, actually getting a consistent position every single time. If you don't have an adjustable cheek piece, you just don't have anything to help you out there. And so if the scope is way towering up here, you might be nudging the stock one time and not the next. I think it can cause problems. And so I just reasonably want to keep the scope close to the bore and not have anything crazy like on this episode of what was that show we used to watch? SWAT, where they had it just crazy up there. Last thing that I want, we got an airplane coming, is some kind of bubble level on the scope. Generally, I don't like it on the chassis because there could be some difference to the scope, but I tested this one and it ended up just right, and so I just removed the one that I had on the scope. But usually I like to have a bubble level right on the scope to make sure that when I dial up, I'm dialing actually up, that I don't have the gun torqued one way or the other. You're going to be fine out to 500 yards, but past 500, you really want to make sure you have some kind of bubble level to be helping you out there. That's it. That's really all we need for the rifle setup. Let's sight this thing in. All right, so I'm not allowed to touch the gun during all of this. You got to get this started. So first thing is we set our target out at just like 35 yards, okay, so that we can generally get sighted in. So I would just look through the scope and see if we can see the target, and then we'll just adjust the bipod until we get it about right front and back.
Okay, I'm so ready for this.
I know, you're excited.
I've always wanted to be a rifle woman. Okay.
Okay. Shoot!
Ah! It's pretty scary. Okay.
You all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay, did you hit the target?
I did!
All right, support. I've tried a lot of different things, as you've seen. So Backfire's, I think it's 4 years old now, the channel. I was surprised at that. But the first couple years of the channel, it was very much just a side project we'd spend 1 hour a week on. And when I look back at some of those older videos, I say, ooh, some of those accuracy issues we were seeing, very likely because we didn't have that good of a setup for how we were supporting the rifle. We've really moved everything to bipod front, sandbag rear. It's not rocket science, but specifically what bag you use can make a big difference. And I would say in the 1 MOA hoax video we did, Other than guys just not spending the time to check lots of different loads with their rifle and finding one that actually worked. Because some of them we tried several things and it still just wasn't doing it. The biggest was your support setup, being able to really get solid on the gun. So here, this is an AccuTac bipod, a lot of good bipods out there. But this is attached to Picatinny here, but you can also have an Arca Swiss rail here, which is awesome. And there's Picatinny on the top. So they have some bipods that will hold on the top so your gun is kind of swinging under it. They're super stable. And so I'd like to get that set up on this gun. Really nice to have, but a good strong bipod up front. Then a lot of guys will go to sports ones or whatever and they see a bag and they're like, oh, this one's nice and light, I want that. And you don't realize like this bag has a totally different purpose. This one is really about a gap filler if you're shooting in weird positions and stuff like that. This lightweight bag, I mean, it'd be okay to shoot on, but you're not gonna get the most accurate groups shooting on something like that. Also, I've used a lot of times just a big heavy sandbag for the front that's intended to be your front rest. Sometimes that's the most stable you're going to get because on like a hunting rifle that has a lot of movement in that forend, you really don't want to attach a bipod right at the end on one little point. It ends up causing more problems. Then rear bag, I'm just using this kind of bag that really most people shooting competitions and stuff have a lot of different of these. This one I think is Armageddon gear, but just a nice sandbag in the back that we can easily manipulate and is going to be solid. The attachment up front, you're gonna have some kind of lever so that you can dial in how easy it is to rotate the gun side to side. And if that's really loose, it's gonna be tough to get the gun shooting well. There's just more movement in that reticle when you're shooting. And so get it to just enough that you can manipulate the gun side to side, but it's not wobbling on you. Okay, that's you ready for some groups?
Yeah, finally, you let me shoot one of these guns.
All right. Okay, first thing we're gonna do is so you can set the sandbag under the back. And one thing I noticed on the one MOA hoax video is a lot of guys took like forever to get a shot and they're like, oh, I don't have a good view through the scope. And it took a long time to get set up. So before you get in the gun, we got to make sure that the bipod and the bag are just generally pretty close to the target. Okay, so take a look through the scope real quick and it looks like your rear bag's gonna be too high. You're pointed too far down. Okay, so just mash the back of the gun into that bag.
I can see.
Okay, so a few different ways to manipulate that back bag, and we can obviously, adjust the bipod height and stuff too, but if we can just make a simple push into the bag, I think that's gonna help us. What we don't want is that we're manipulating that back bag so much that the gun, when you let off it for a second, it's gonna kind of be lifting up and stuff. Make sure it's just dead. When it's just settled, it's reasonably close to the target. Your body, well, you're actually pretty good right now, but you want your body to be straight in a line with the gun. So can you kind of torque to the side? Almost everybody, no, you don't have to twerk, it's torque.
Wait.
No, there will be no twerking on this video. That's how almost everybody is going to sit behind the gun. Now, the reasoning that I always hear people say that you've got to have your body in a straight line behind the gun, I don't know if I totally agree with. And that's most people will say like, oh, you got to have the recoil track straight back. Well, I mean, the recoil isn't really going to affect your toes so much. But I do think it's important to be very straight behind it because of two things. One, if you're twerked off to the side, your shoulder is at an angle, and so that butt pad may be slipping and moving here, and so we may not have a good recoil into the shoulder. The second thing is, if you're twerked off to the side, your view into the scope could be different every time, and especially if you haven't set that parallax perfectly, we could be causing issues there. And so it's just easiest, I think, to just always go, yeah, straight behind that gun. Great.
Ready.
Most people when they're shooting are focused a lot on the right hand, on that trigger press. So let's just do a couple dry fires so you can close the action. Now your right hand is going to get on here and put your thumb on that shelf. The reason we put our thumb on the side that most people do is because you want your forefinger when you're pulling the trigger to be pulling it at a 90, instead of twerking across the gun. People are gonna be like, you do know it's torque, right? Anyway, so that's the idea. So put your finger on the trigger now. Yeah, and we want that as much as possible to be pulling straight back. So let's say you initiate shot sequence, just spend about 2 seconds, just slowly increase pressure until you feel that. Then don't do anything with your finger afterward.
Wait, you want me to actually do that?
Yep.
Pull the trigger.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So that was a little jerky. This time we want to do it just super smooth. Just initiate, pull back, do it like a robot. Smooth, slow pressure until it breaks. Okay, good enough for me. That's the right hand. Right hand, we're just thinking like a robot here. We just want it to just slowly move, no crazy motions, anything. The left hand is more of the artist in here. And I think with accuracy, the left hand matters a lot more. So put your right hand on the gun and curl back your left arm. Yeah, like that. And then we'll use mostly these 2 fingers. And yeah, that's how we're gonna manipulate that bag, that you can kind of underneath the stock, so a little bit lower than the gun. Yeah, you can kind of squeeze that a little bit. It's kind of big for your hand, huh? You kind of squeeze that bag a little bit to get it where it needs to go as you're just looking through the scope to make those fine adjustments. So the left hand is more in control of where the gun is aiming than the right hand. And then we got to just put our head down on the gun like you're ready to go shoot. I cannot shoot accurately if I'm not out of breath almost. Not like crazy out of breath, but pretty out of breath, and I just hold it for a couple seconds as I'm pulling the trigger. We're not focused so much on like, oh, now's the perfect moment. If you did all that, the crosshairs are gonna be just about dead. And then you really are just eliminating the human from the shot. Ready to do it?
I got it! I got it!
Got it good. We have our gun basically set up. We're gonna keep fine tuning our zero and stuff, but we're shooting now. Now we're gonna shoot a little 3-shot group at the target. We only have 20 shots overall, and so we gotta make everyone count, kind of learning the trigger pull.
Did those 2 shots just count?
Yes, they count. They all count. Hey, look at that. That is a nice group.
Honey, that one was me.
Okay.
That is
Holy
good.
crap.
Look, right through. I didn't know it was going to be that good.
Let's see. That is a nice group.
Wow.
0.76.
I impressed myself.
Honey, that is awesome. 0.76?
That is neat.
How many groups have you shot in your whole life?
Well, probably none.
Is that the first time you've shot a group?
Yeah, I don't come out and shoot. I just stare at your guns.
Oh my gosh. I can't even tell who the winner is here. This is mine. This is Emily's. They're like the same. I don't even know how you call a winner. But amazing shooting.
Together.
You're amazing! So we're getting ready to shoot the 1,000 yards, but let's take just a second and talk about this rifle because it is crazy. This is one of the most accurate factory rifles I have ever tested. And it should be because it is intended for it to be a competition rifle. So this is the Bergara Premier Comp Rifle. It weighs 12.7 pounds. This is not a rifle you want to take into the hunting woods. But as an entry point into shooting competition, or if you just want a precise gun to take to the range or do some tactical shooting, that kind of stuff, man, what an impressive gun. This is in a Masterpiece Arms chassis. And so you have everything adjustable like you want, super rigid. You have all your attachment points. Full length Arca rail is money. I love seeing that. The feeding is perfect with a 10-round magazine, and you have your release here so that it's quick to release. Action is super smooth. All the Premier series rifles from Bergara are so nice. I really like the Premier action. And you know, you got your bubble level like we talked about. But what you want to know is how the dang thing shoots. So we have shot several groups now, 4-shot groups. And the reason that Backfire uses 4-shot groups is because 3 doesn't give you enough data as to, you know, generally what you can expect from it. a 5-shot group, because we do a lot of hunting rifle tests, the 5th one kicks out because the gun is getting hotter. And so we're doing 4-shot groups, but it's not just like one group. We're shooting a whole bunch of groups and getting the average so that we really know what that gun is capable of. And so the mean 4-shot group size is 0.497 with this rifle. That is awesome. That is shooting the Hornady 140 grain match ammo, and that's the only load I've even tested. I haven't even tried the Burger stuff to see really what this thing can do, but with that first load, I mean, legitimately shooting sub half MOA, I'm gonna take that to the bank. I don't even know that I need to test a lot of other things. That is Bergara's comp rifle. It's pretty exciting as an entry point into competition. Let's stretch this thing out to 1,000. So before we do that, we've got to have a really precise zero. Both of these groups were just a little bit high. Half an inch high is where we are. So it's between 1 and 2 clicks on a mil scope. And so we're just going to give it 1 click down. We're going to zero our turrets. Then we're going to take off the turret and re-zero it, right? We'll put it down so 0 is marked at the marker. And then our gun is ready to go. But now we need to get our ballistics. So this is where it's incredibly helpful if you have a chronograph. It just works. I've used a lot of different ballistics apps, and everybody kind of has their preference, and I don't know that any of them are wrong, but the one that I've had the best results from is Hornady's app, the Hornady FORDOF app. The critical step when you're using this app is you'll see you have FORDOF and BC-based calculator. I think most people unfortunately click BC because they're like, oh, I have the BC on the box of my ammunition. So the BC is, they have a standard drag model that they're comparing each bullet to. What that is though is one single number showing you how that bullet's gonna fly for 1,000 yards. And you're gonna get much better results if you click on FORDOF. Instead of just that one number like the BC that you see listed on the box, this is taking lots of data points about how each individual bullet flies. And so they've done a lot of very expensive testing for you here. And so I'll click on favorites. Here I have a bunch of my rifles that I have all dialed into here. So I have this Bergara Premier Competition, and my velocity is 2753. Now, I know some of you are saying, now I can't shoot long range because I don't have a chronograph, and that's not true. So if you haven't invested in a chronograph yet, you can do this just fine. What you'll do is enter everything else in and just put the number from the box of the ammo about the velocity, put that in for now. It's probably wrong. You might want to immediately cut 50 feet per second off the box because they usually overestimate it. But we'll just put everything in there. We'll see the barrel twist. With 6.5 Creedmoor, it's going to be 1 and 8, but you might want to check your specific barrel if you have something weird going on. Your sight height. Sight height is the distance between the bore of the barrel, the middle of the barrel, to the middle of your scope. Remember, that's what we were talking about earlier, that we need to adjust for that error. In this case, it's a 56 millimeter scope. It's a big scope, and so it puts it higher. And so we're 2.05 inches from the bore of the barrel to the middle of that scope. With a hunting rifle, it's more like 1.7, something like that normally. The zero range, we zeroed at 100 yards. Everything else really should be fine here. Then we're going to pick the bullet. Not just the BC, but if they have the data for not just Hornady bullets, but a lot of others, again, you're getting that custom drag curve. It's going to be so much more accurate out at different distances. So we have that. Then we've got to edit the environment. Once we get onto this screen, we're going to click Edit Environment. And you might have to just, if you don't have, a Kestrel or something with you to tell you that today, you can just Google it. What's the weather where I am today? What's the temperature, pressure, what altitude are you at, etc. The most important ones to set here are going to be your pressure and altitude. Those are going to make a very big difference in the solution you get. We'll click Save, and now we're dialed. All I've got to do is get my rangefinder. We're at 1,005 yards, and it tells me right at the bottom, that's MOA, got to switch this up to MRADs, whoops. Switch this to MRAD, set, and bam, it tells me we need to be at 8.06 MRAD, or mils in elevation. It's perfect. You can also use the wind call here function if you're getting started. You know, if you can just generally tell 3 mile an hour wind, 5 mile an hour, and 10 mile an hour wind, you're at least going to be close enough to get started and making some longer shots. You'll have to walk it in more often, but if you just know that a 3 mile an hour wind, you probably can't even feel on your face yet. You might see some of the tiny little grasses starting to move. You'll see the mirage when you're looking through a spotting scope or your binoculars. You'll see it kind of boiling, maybe starting to get a little bit of an angle to it, that mirage just kind of going up. At 3 miles an hour, at 5 miles an hour, you're going to see that mirage starting to move more left to right. You're going to start to see more vegetation moving. You're going to feel it on your face. If you just learn a couple basic things like that to get started, and I'm definitely not the best in the world at it, but I can do okay. Learn a couple basic things like that to get your wind call, and that's going to help you out a ton, but mostly it's time behind the gun and you'll kind of figure out what to do there. That's it. That's all we need to do. We have our solutions. We just dial our scope to it. And now Emily is about to attempt a 1,005-yard shot and see if we can hit it. If we've done everything right, the vertical should be perfect, because if the scope's tracking right and I have everything right in here, we should be perfectly in the center of that ball. The hardest thing at distance is getting the side to side, because the wind is going to push it one way or the other. And so we're going to do the best we can there and take a shot. All right, honey, here it is. 1,000 yards, clear the heck out there. All right, moment of truth. Oh! Oh! That was so close. I mean, you must have skimmed the ball.
Does that mean you do the dishes?
Maybe. I'll do the dishes.
Just kidding.